what you need to know.
Talk 1470. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Heal Yourself Show with Doctors Jonathan Chung and Greg Jean-Pierre of Keystone Chiropractic in Wellington and the Upper Cervical Institute of Florida. Dr. Chung and Dr. Jean-Pierre are chiropractors with a focus on correction of the upper cervical spine. Together they have worked with some of the leading doctors and health experts in the country and have helped thousands of patients regain their health from a variety of chronic health problems related to the structural alignment of the head and neck. Dr. Chung and Dr. Jean-Pierre have authored and published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. They've also been featured speakers around the country on topics ranging from head injury, chronic pain, spinal health, and fitness. Their goal is to teach you how to unlock the doctor within and heal yourself. Join them today as they share their passion for serving families and helping people who could not get better through traditional and alternative means. Call the Heal Yourself Show at 888-565-1470.
Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of Heal Yourself Radio Show. And again, as always, my name is Dr. Gregory Jean-Pierre and with me is Dr. Jonathan Chung. And today we're going to really dig into what chiropractic is. So unlike all the other shows where we were talking about symptom specific, we're going to go back to the beginning and really teach you what's the meaning of health, what is health, and how does chiropractic fit in the paradigm. So if you are listening over the radio, we're going to give you a little bit of time to actually go to healyourselfradio.com because along with what we're going to talk about, there's going to be some special slides and special pictures that's going to be shown on the screen. So we're going to give you some time, as Dr. Chung says hello, to go and log into healyourselfradio.com, get the press tune in, and you'll be able to watch us live and be able to participate with us as we share with you on these information that we have here.
Yeah, Dr. Greg, I'm super excited about the show today because we have something that our listeners definitely don't want to miss. So while you're sitting at your house or at the office, if you're on the road, then I feel bad for you because you're going to miss a great presentation today because we're going to show you exactly what chiropractic's origins are. We're going to talk about exactly what it can help with because a lot of people have some misconceptions about that. And we're going to break a lot of the common misconceptions about chiropractic and talk about what it really is on today's show.
Awesome. So what we're going to do, just to allow you guys to have some time to actually go and check us out online, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll get into the nitty-gritty about what health is.
When was the last time you had your atlas checked? When your head and neck shift out of place, it can actually affect your whole body. Do you suffer from migraines, TMJ, dizziness, or chronic back and neck pain? If so, you may have an atlas problem, and you need a NUCA chiropractor. NUCA allows for a gentle and precise correction of your spine without any popping, twisting, or cracking associated with conventional manipulations. Call Keystone Chiropractic at 561-247-0044 and schedule a free consultation. Dr. Chung is one of approximately 300 doctors in the world trained in the NUCA protocol of spinal correction. Stop suffering. When your doctors can't determine the problem, you need to contact Keystone Chiropractic. We won't ask you to believe in chiropractic or commit to a lifetime of treatment. What we will do is show you what normal is, and we'll tell you how to get there again. We'll show you using precision technology that your spine has changed for the better, even after one correction. Then we'll show you the path for keeping it that way. If you are tired of constantly patching the problem and you're looking for a long-term solution that you can both feel and see for yourself, then a NUCA office is the right place for you. Once the foundation has been fixed, then we'll teach you how to keep it that way through customized recommendations designed for your spine so that the problem doesn't come back. What do you have to lose? Call today to schedule your complimentary consultation. If you call during the hour, we'll give you a $100 gift certificate to use towards your first visit. No questions asked. No commitments, just a conversation to see if we can help. 2 convenient locations in Boca Raton and West Palm Beach. Call Keystone Chiropractic today and end your days of suffering with chronic pain. Call us at 561-247-0044. Check out the website, healyourselfradio.com. That's healyourselfradio.com.
Are you searching for answers to your health problems? Are you looking for an alternative to harmful drugs and dangerous surgery? Have you tried everything else and figured this is just something you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life? At Upper Cervical Institute of Florida, we provide you with a safe, effective, and natural approach to restoring your health and regaining your life. Dr. Jean Pierre will find the cause instead of masking the symptoms. Dr. Jean Pierre utilizes the most specific techniques in detecting and correcting the vertebrae subluxation. At Upper Cervical Institute of Florida, we pride ourselves in providing you with the highest standards of healthcare for you and your entire family. The procedure is gentle, effective, and affordable for everyone. Call now to schedule your free consultation. 561-409-3594. That's 561-409-6594. Or visit our website at www.uci-fl.com.
All right, folks, welcome back. And I wanted to clarify, we have some exciting news. We're actually going to switch it. If you are on Heal Yourself Radio website, we're actually going to broadcast it on WWNNradio.com. WWNNradio.com. And for those of you that are driving and not able to see it, then we're going to replay it on our website on HealYourselfRadio.com. So as we set up everything here, go to WWNNradio.com. and you'll be able to see us live as we go through all these slides, and after we'll be able to replay it on the HealYourselfRadio.com. All right. So the phone number to hear if you have any question is 1-888-565-1470. 1-888-565-1470. And again, this is a live show. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you. All right. So hopefully you have everything in front of you, and we're going to show some slides as we talk and go over in detail what is chiropractic and how does chiropractic fit into the paradigm of what we call health. All right. So let's get started here. If you're online, you can actually see the slide in front of you, and it's asking, there's a bunch of symptoms here. How many of you, just think about it, how many of you have at least one, or have a friend or family member that has at least one of these things?
So we're talking about things like low back pain, of course, neck pain, and things that people commonly associate with chiropractic. But you can also see on the chart that things like asthma, allergies, digestive problems, fevers, infertility, all these things have been under the care of a chiropractor, and a lot of them have resolved really well.
Yeah, and that's the question we're asking. Can chiropractic really help somebody with Tourette syndrome or MS or Parkinson's and scoliosis? Well, scoliosis, we know, restless leg syndrome, a lot of these things that we've seen that goes to traditional medical route, but we're going to really get into how does chiropractic really help with some of these things. So before we get into that, there's a quote by Hippocrates, which is credited to be the father of medicine, that talks about look well to the spine for the cause of dis-ease. That's important because, again, that's what we do. We're looking into the spine to find out the source of the problem and really see whether we can help you or not.
And what we also know is some great people have also talked about the spine and the importance of it. Thomas Edison was actually quoted as, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine but will interest patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." And this just goes to show that, you know, the origins of health really needed to be about prevention and looking at the frame and looking at, you know, other aspects besides just trying to treat symptoms.
Yeah, those are great quotes, because those are coming from medical doctors, people that are credited as far as medicine is concerned. But what they're saying is, if you look into the spine, if you're looking at the human frame, that can actually tell you what's going on as far as your health. You know, the purpose of the radio show and the purpose of what we're doing here is really to change the healthcare of the world one person at a time, and that's a big task for two of us to do, which is why we're on the radio. We do a lot of in-service in our office. We go around and speak to a number of different groups, because again, what we've been through and the message that we have, I feel like everybody needs to hear it. So if you're listening right now and you have a friend or family member, please call them and let them watch this show. Or, as I said, we're going to replay this on HealYourselfRadio.com. Have them watch this, because some of the information that we're going to share with you is literally going to be life-changing.
So there was Gandhi that said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And what we see in our offices all the time is that it's not that every single person in the office is going to have their life change and sends everyone that they know, but sometimes it just takes that one or two people that influence the lives of dozens of other people and can have a dramatic impact on those people, and it really takes the leadership of those dedicated few in order to get people to see the light.
And that gets into right next to what we're going to talk about. How did chiropractic started? You know, and it's a really cool story, and it was the dedication of one person, which is why we're here today. So I'll let you talk about how did chiropractic get started. I mean, is it back pain, neck pain? What was it, and how did it come about that we are chiropractors right now?
This is one of my favorite stories because whenever I talk about this to my patients, people are just blown away by it. And chiropractic was started by a man named D.D. Palmer. And, you know, spinal manipulation has been around for ages, for thousands of years. But D.D. Palmer is the first person to put a specific, precise force into the spine in order to try to take care of a person's condition. And what had happened was there was a deaf janitor that worked in D.D. Palmer's office. His name was Harvey Lillard. And during Harvey Lillard's life, he had at some point lost his hearing. And he told Dr. Palmer, said, you know, there was this time where I felt this pop in my spine, and all of a sudden, you know, I lost my sense of hearing in one of my ears. And when he told Dr. Palmer that, Dr. Palmer had this hunch that was like, I wonder if something's happening in the spine that may have caused this problem. So what he did was he examined Harvey Lillard's spine, and he put a very precise force into the spine, and that day he could actually hear the ticking of Dr. Palmer's watch while he was inside the room. And it was the first time that he had his hearing back since he had lost it so many years before.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, and I tell in my office as well. But one of the things I always, you know, tell patients after that is, what happened after he discovered that is that he thought that he had found the cure for deafness. Okay, so he spread the word out and told everybody that he had found the cure for deafness, and tons of people that were deaf came to his office. But what happened is, pretty much majority of these people, none of them got their hearing back. But what he noticed is by delivering a specific adjustment, people that had MS, Parkinson, you name it, started feeling better, and so their life started changing. Thus came chiropractic, which is why, you know, chiropractic is not about back pain, neck pain, or anything like that. Chiropractic is really about removing interference within the spine to allow the body to do what it's supposed to do, which is to heal itself over time. So I'm assuming in your office, and that's what happened in my office, everybody that comes in, they come in for specific symptoms. I have pain down my back, I have pain down my leg, or whatever the case is, headaches, low energy memory issues. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the question that you ask. That's why today I want to challenge you. Instead of trying to figure out how to get rid of the pain, the right question should really be, what's wrong with me? Because more often than not, if you understand the biomechanics and physics, what's going on, you may not even want to get rid of the pain, because the pain's there for a reason. So start asking, what's wrong with, well, not how do I get rid of it, but what's wrong and what's causing it in the first place. Because when you do that, then we'll be able to actually find the cause and be able to take care of it.
And another really important concept that really needs to be heard by not only just our listeners, but really just everywhere in general, is where are your values? And your values really will determine your actions are. So a lot of people will say, like, oh, health is a top priority to me, but their actions reflect otherwise. So when we talk about values, you can see on this chart, you know, people have values, whether it's personal and spiritual, other religious beliefs rank very high in many people's lives, family and relationships rank very high in most people, of course, financial security, free time, and health all become part of that picture. So we always have to take a time and find out, you know, what's our most important value. And when we think about it, health needs to be the top priority, because when you don't have health, everything else besides that, having all the money in the world, having a great family life, a lot of that seems to not exist anymore when you have health. We've had, you know, people making, you know, millions of dollars come into the office, and they come in and they're absolutely miserable because they can't do anything with all the wealth that they've acquired because they've worn their body down to its thinnest thread.
Right, and we spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day working. We spend time with our family. I mean, we do all that stuff playing sports, but you got to understand, if health and wellness is not number one, everything else suffers. So it's one thing to say that, but are your actions actually showing that health is number one? One of the things I talk about in my office is I go to the supermarket and you see people drive around and around and around and around looking for the closest parking spot. My office is on the 3rd floor. I get a lot of patients that wait for a few minutes for the elevator instead of taking the stairs. So these are tiny little things that, if health is number one in your life, you actually want to start taking the step, even the little ones, to actually make sure that the things that you're doing are congruent with actually having health as number one priority. Because just like it says, your top 3 values determine 75% of your action. So start making health a priority, and you don't exercise every now and then, you exercise every day. You do the things that are necessary to get health. Okay? And since we're on that topic, what is health? I mean, really, what is health?
Well, Dr. JP, I think this is probably the most important question that we're going to ask here today, is because people's definition of health is absolutely scrambled. When we take a look at, what the true definitions of health, we come up with things like having all of your cells working 100% of the time, which is accurate. Having all of your organ systems working and doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing is accurate. But when you ask someone walking down the street, or you go to the mall and you ask them, are they healthy, they're going to be telling something about how they're feeling.
Correct.
So why don't you talk about, how feeling comes into the picture?
Yeah, and I usually put my patients and give them a challenge. Just go to a crowded place or go to a mall and just ask people, just how are you feeling today? And most people would always say, oh, I feel great, I'm awesome, I'm healthy. But they're basing that on how they feel. Okay, I don't have any pain, I don't have any symptoms, there's nothing going on with me, life is great, so I must be healthy. But just like you see on the screen, health has nothing to do with how you feel. The definition has nothing to do with how you feel. Because how many times that you hear somebody's perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, drop dead of a heart attack? Okay? Because it has nothing to do with how you feel. First of all, I believe that your nervous system, part of it, only about 80% or 10% controls pain. The other things have nothing to do with pain. So if you're waiting for pain or how you feel to get there, it's usually too late. And we have a couple stats that we're putting up here, and we talked about that last week. And the U.S. is only 5% of the population, but yet we consume 65% of all drugs produced. So if you were to put all the countries in the world combined, and you put the United States, we spend more money on drugs and medication than anybody else, because what we're looking for is the feeling good, trying to get rid of the pain. We spend $8,000 annually per person on healthcare in the U.S., and we're number one in the world. Does that mean we are the healthiest country in the world?
Well, stats will definitely tend to tell us otherwise, especially if you look at them over the past 20 years for sure. You'll see that the United States is consistently ranked between 35 and 42 in world healthcare rankings. Now, here's my challenge to a lot of our listeners today. Name 40 countries besides the United States. And most people that I know couldn't even name 40 countries. Right. And yet, for all the money that we spend, we should have the Mercedes-Benz, Ferrari, Lamborghini of healthcare, and yet we are getting the results of, a Pinto.
Right. And I actually, I don't have it here. I just that was just released, I believe, last month, when they did a study on the top 11 richest countries in the world. And 11 richest countries, when it comes to health, the United States was number 11. Okay? Because again, and I'm sorry to say, we call a healthcare system, and we have all these, politics and all this stuff about healthcare, but what we truly have in the United States is a sick care. You go to a doctor when you're sick, when you're not feeling well. It has nothing to do with health. And if you look at the stats here, it clearly says that the United States is number 41, so the life expectancy is about 67.2. However, the last 13 years are qualified as dysfunctional, which means you're not living your life fully. You're in a wheelchair, you're on tons of medication, and you can't enjoy it to the maximum level. So again, health versus sick care is where we at. And before I even start, I want to make sure people understand, we're not against medication, we're not against surgery, we're not against, as a matter of fact, this is the best country in the world to be in for trauma. This is the best country in the world to be in as far as emergency. But as far as health themselves, we have no clue what we're doing.
And when we assess just the top causes of death in the United States, most people are definitely able to tell what some of the top ones are. Most people name heart disease, they'll name cancer, stroke, And, it's pretty accurate. These are lifestyle-related diseases and have a profound impact on their overall health. But the one thing that people aren't recognizing is that iatrogenic disease, or...
What is that?
Well, iatrogenic disease is actually, illness caused by a health provider or a doctor. So it's called doctor-created illness, is actually responsible for a tremendous amount of not only pain and suffering, but also a large amount of deaths in the United States. That's from, just spending time in a hospital, and if you happen to catch an infection, that falls into that category. People that take the right amount of medication at the right time as prescribed, but die of their side effects, that goes into that category. And people just going in for routine surgeries or scans, and they have a bad reaction to anesthesia, that also goes into that category too.
Yeah, and it's been estimated that has been number one in the world, in this country, for the past 20-25 years, and it's based on the Journal of American Medical Association. So again, we don't hear about it, but I guarantee you, if today a jumbo jet fell off the sky and killed 300 people, it'll be all over the news. But I can guarantee you, just here in the state of Florida, more than 300 people would die because of iatrogenic diseases.
So, with that being said, if we can't rely on symptoms, then how are we supposed to know if we're well?
Well, again, this is good, because the next slide, and if you're watching along with us, how do we know whether we are well or not? Again, we talked about, does it have anything to do with how you feel, and can your lifestyle be an indicator? Does genetics, and I get a lot of people saying, oh, it's genetics, it was in my family. Does that play a role in whether you're well or not? I remember when I asked this first question, there was a cardiologist in the room, and he got that question right. So let me put it out there. What is the most common initial sign of a heart attack? And when I ask people that, guess what? We talk about, pain down your left arm. We talk about sweating and difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, and all that stuff. But all those are signs of a heart attack. But the most common initial sign of a heart attack, and before I say, let me put it on here for those of you that are on the internet, you can see the answer here. But that's clearly the number one sign, the most common initial sign of a heart attack: death. Okay, perfect example. President Clinton just recently walked into his cardiologist's office just for a routine checkup. I mean, there was nothing wrong with him. He just wanted to have checked, and it just turned out that he had 90% heart block and had to have immediate quadruple bypass surgery. There was nothing wrong with him. So imagine if you waited a week, a year, a couple months, what would happen? He would have had, his first sign would have been death. So again, don't wait till you have the pain or the symptoms. Again, as we mentioned earlier, that what the meaning of true health is having all your cells function at 100% of the time. So make sure that is happening rather than waiting for how you feel.
And another thing, I always like to compare what we do to how the dentists talk about it. And because one of the things that we talk about is spinal decay, and it's something that you can't feel inside of your body. And also another thing that it's very hard, or you can't feel in your body until it's too late, is dental decay. Can you feel your tooth starting to rot away? No. Most cases you would say no. That's why you go to your dentist, you get x-rays, and they say, oh, you have cavities here, or you need a root canal here. And they give us these ways of detecting these things before we have a serious problem. Right. And that way we could catch it before it becomes a real threat to our health.
And the question is, before you walked into that dentist's office and find out you have cavity, all that time, were you sick or were you well? Okay, so now that you walked in and he said, oh, you have cavity, did that cavity just happen when you walked in his office, or did you always had that? So again, there's no pain involved with cavity unless it's really, really bad, but during that time, I would venture to say that you were sick.
And probably the most scary thought is just walking in and thinking about, having cancer.
Wow, yeah.
And let's just say that you walked in and to a doctor's office, and you're a woman in your 40s or 50s, and you went in for your routine mammogram, and all of a sudden they found that spot on the mammogram. So you were feeling great that entire time, and yet when you've had that mammogram, you literally need to have millions and millions of cancerous cells have built up at that time. Were you sick or were you well during that time you had all those cancer cells building up?
And that's a great question, because when it comes to cancer, every single one of us listening here have cancer developing in our body right now, because cancer is nothing more than the cells duplicating abnormally. So in a normal individual with everything working properly, those cells will send information to the brain, and the brain sends signal to actually kill that process. In a person that actually developed cancer in the long run, that process kept happening and happening and happening, and those cells kept duplicating abnormally without any response from the nervous system, and over time, 5, 10, 20 years later, all of a sudden you have cancer. So again, before you find out when the doctor touched to see that you had cancer, were you sick or were you well? So that's the question. Obviously you were sick, but if I were to ask you before he found out, and I asked you, you'd be like, oh well, I'm well. But that's the thing. The purpose of all this is really to kind of shift your mind into thinking what is sickness and what is health. So the next one, when we talk about chest pain, same thing. We mentioned Glenn, we mentioned chest pain is not really, you can't wait for the symptoms basically.
Agreed. So with that being said, if we can't just rely on symptoms, how do we know where health comes from? How do we get to a place where we're healthy?
Right. And again, you know what? That's the theme of this entire show. Health comes from within. Your body was created with every single thing that it needs to be healthy. Self-healing, self-adapting, self-regulating mechanism. All we need is to be without interference to make sure that the cells are working at 100% all the time.
And we always acknowledge that the best doctor that you could ever have on your team is a doctor that you have inside of your body already, because you have the best, most amazing pharmacy that's built into your brain and your endocrine system, and you have the best controller of all of those systems inside of your brain itself.
Yeah, so again, with all that being said, how does chiropractic fit into that? And that's the question.
Well, in order to understand how chiropractic fits into that, you had to have the understanding that the nervous system controls every single function in your body. So everything from how your heart beats, to how your lungs breathe, to your digestion, there's a nerve that is traveling to that specific body part, telling it what to do and to coordinate those functions. If those nerves were disconnected from the body, then you have those structures no longer functioning. It could lead to dysfunction of those end organs. So when we look up, very prestigious textbooks that we read when we were in chiropractic school and people read in medical school, we know that the nervous system is the master system. The brain and the spinal cord coordinate and control the function of every cell, tissue, gland, organ system of the human body, and that's by Guyton's medical text. And we also know that the nervous system is the first system to develop in the body. We always think about, what might develop first as a sperm cell meets an egg cell. A lot of people say heart. Some people say, other random structures. But the nervous system is starting to develop well within the 7th hour of conception.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And if you are looking with us online, we have a chart here that shows you as the sperm meet the egg, you get mitosis, there's the cell division. And before everything happened, that little thing that you see here is called the primitive streak. The primitive streak is really what controls everything. So out of 2 cells, it creates the primitive streak, which is the nervous system, and everything comes about. And 6,000 billion cells later, you get a human being. And again, all that process was being carried on by the nervous system around the body, which is the innate intelligence or innate wisdom in the body. So the body is completely able to do what it's supposed to do. And we have a couple stats here. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day. You don't have to think about that for that to happen. Now imagine if you had to wake up the next day and you had to physically think about your heart beating for it to work. We'll all end up dying, but the nervous system is doing that by itself.
And in 70 years, your stomach will produce about 60,000 quarts of digestive juice. And it'll digest about 40 tons of food. Now, I don't know about you, but I just like sitting back and enjoying my food. I don't like to think about how it's being done, and I'm glad that it's being done
by itself,
subconsciously.
And you wear about 10, and we're just throwing some numbers at you just so you can be amazed what's going on. You wear about 10 million red blood cells each second. But your life force is constantly having them replaced with new ones. It's been said, and I said that last time, that to build a computer as powerful as your nervous system, it would take a structure like the Empire State Building, and it would actually take the entire Hudson River to actually cool that. So that's power within that the body's really able to heal itself. So that's why we deal with the nervous system itself.
So what I liked about what we just talked about before is that these are known facts. They're indisputable. And chiropractic has had an understanding of these facts from a very early time from its conception. And the reason we're talking about all of this in relation to chiropractic is chiropractic's philosophy has the understanding that, there's a universal intelligence that, makes everything exist. And your nervous system holds a piece of that universal intelligence, and it's called innate intelligence. So when your nervous system is maintained in proper function, and the body is a self-healing and self-adapting and self-regulating organism. So that is a fact. If you have a properly functioning nervous system, then your body has no choice but to run that much better than one with interference.
So that kind of answer, how does chiropractic work as far as health? Because if you understand that the nervous system controls everything, as chiropractors, if we are able to remove interference within the nervous system, then the body should be able to heal itself. So now let's talk about the structural component of the nervous system itself.
So where can interference at the nervous system happen? Well, we understand that your nerves are protected by bone because the nerves are the most important structures in the entire body. So we think about the spine, and the spine is basically a structure of 24 movable vertebrae. And when we think about these vertebrae, they act like a circuit breaker for the entire body. So whenever there's a vertebrae that slips or starts to shift out of place, then we could develop interference and pressure upon these nerves. And it would just be like going to a circuit breaker switch and flipping off one of the breaker switches that may go to your garage, and all of a sudden the power of the garage starts to go out. Instead of trying to replace all the things that are happening in the garage that are connected electrically, we would first look to the circuit breaker to see if there's a fault there.
Right. Yeah, and each vertebra has a hole in the middle through which passes the spinal cord. So again, the way the nervous system works, and you mentioned that if you think about the way your body was designed, every single organ and stuff they're exposed to the environment. Your heart is protected by the rib cage, but you can still get through it. Your nervous system, which consists of your brain and spinal cord, is completely encased in bone. Your brain has the skull, and your spinal cord has the spinal column. So that's important to understand, because you were designed to have that system protected. And so when we talk about subluxation, which is what we look for as chiropractic, what is a subluxation and what does it look like actually?
So basically, when we're talking about the subluxation, when we talked about how the spine can shift out of place, we call that a structural shift in the body. When that spine shifts out of place and it twists, then all the ligaments, muscles, discs, and all these other structures can start to compress and irritate that nerve. So when you have a little bit of irritation on that nerve, then you have a lack of function coming out of that nerve going into that end organ. Now that nerve can be going into a muscle, and that muscle can start to spasm on you and create muscle spasms. But at the same time, that nerve can also be going into, say, your stomach, and all of a sudden your stomach isn't digesting properly. It could go into your heart, and all of a sudden you have abnormal heart rate or rhythm. So wherever there's an impingement of these spinal nerves, then you could have interference to how those organs function.
Yeah, and again, that's why we are so effective. And we've been talking about, and we even have people on the show explaining how they get their life back. And we're talking about all we're doing is a quick adjustment. And that's how it works. Because if we're moving interference, we're moving subluxation, the body should be able to communicate at 100%, thus allowing you to regain health. So once you understand the power of the nervous system, then the body can naturally heal itself over time. So again, just like we talked about, health is having all your cells functioning at 100%. Here's the way it actually works.
So basically, it's not that chiropractic is meant to cure certain diseases. Basically, we are looking as chiropractors at if you have proper spinal alignment. Because if you have proper spinal alignment, then you're going to have better proper nerve function. And when you have better nerve function, you have proper functioning tissues. And when you have proper functioning tissues, then you have good health. Now, when you have subluxation, and all of a sudden that subluxation is causing nerve interference, that nerve interference distorts how those messages get to those organs stop functioning properly. And when you have malfunctioning organs, then that's what leads to processes called dis-ease, or a lack of ease within the body. And the longer that you have dis-ease in the body, then eventually it'll turn to symptoms. So oftentimes, as you can see from this graphic, that symptoms are the very last sign of a body that hasn't been working properly. Now, the job of a medical doctor is to really go into that realm of assessing symptoms and assessing disease. But the chiropractor's job is to go layers in front of that and identify if you have a shift in the spine called the subluxation that's creating that nerve interference.
Yeah, and it all goes back to what we talked about earlier, asking the right question. When you go to your doctor, you usually go because there's a problem, and you asking them, how do I get rid of this problem or these symptoms? So obviously the drugs, the surgery is what they do, and they're able to get rid of the disease and the symptoms. But until you remove the interference, you get that back. That's why you can never take enough aspirin today to not have a migraine tomorrow, because again, you didn't take care of the cause. In the office, it sounds mean when I say it, but I don't care what you come in with. I don't care about your symptoms. I don't care about your disease. What I'm focusing on is to see whether you have what we call a subluxation. If you do, then I take care of that, and I step aside to allow the body to do what it was designed to do, which is to heal itself. And as you've heard over the past few weeks, many of our patients are experiencing are getting their life back because we focus on the cause of the problem rather than the symptoms. Now, if you look at on the screen earlier, I said once you find out the cause, the problem itself can, the pain or the symptom may be the cure, and you may not want to get rid of it. Let me give you an example. Let's say all of us here, we get a group of people, we get 10 friends, we go out, we have dinner, and we all went to the same restaurant and ate the exact same thing. But yet 5 of us go home, we have those 5 have diarrhea, upset stomach, fever, vomiting, and the other 5, nothing wrong, they have a great night's sleep, they wake up, they go about their business. Out of these 2 groups, which one would you say is healthy and which one would you say is sick?
Well, I know that what most people say is that the people that obviously didn't have the diarrhea or vomiting would be healthier, right?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, and that's the answer. That's most people, because that's what we've been trained to believe. As a matter of fact, if I'm talking about upset stomach diarrhea, there's a drug for that. That's a commercial for that. But in this scenario, what happened is we all had food poisoning, and in all actuality, the people that are vomiting and that have diarrhea, that are those are the people that are healthy, because what happened is your nervous system was working properly, picked up a signal that says there was poison in the body, and it's going to do whatever it takes to actually get rid of that. You're going to throw it out, you're going to sweat it out, you're going to poop it out, whatever it takes. That's your body's natural ability to heal itself. So in that process, if you take the drug to interfere with that process, guess what? You just caused the body to not work. But the people that went home has no problem. What happened is the nervous system was unable to pick up that poison, and they didn't feel any symptoms, but all of a sudden 5, 10, 20 years down the line, they wake up one day and they hear they have MS, Parkinson, they have cancer. But that's because that poison that's been in that body for that long, that's creating some things. So you really got to be careful. Instead of getting rid of the symptoms and trying to figure out how do I get rid of the disease, find out why do you have it, because a lot of the time that's the body's natural ability to heal itself that's creating some of these things.
Exactly. And when we think about, and the most common example that I give is, people have an idea of what a fever is. So when your body just starts heating up, and people will have this tendency to want to reduce that fever, but in reality, the fever is what's responsible for keeping all that bacteria and viruses in check. It slows down the replication. It causes your white blood cells to go into overdrive and start fixing things, and by reducing that fever, you're actually reducing your body's ability to heal and fight off these diseases on its own.
Right. So how can chiropractic help you stay healthy? Pretty simple. By balancing your nervous system, you get less chance of viruses and bacteria, cancer cells invading the body, and really allowing your body or your cells to be functioning 100% at a time.
Now, there was this really interesting study that was done early in chiropractic's tenure. It was by a medical doctor named Dr. Henry Windsor out of the University of Pennsylvania. And what he did was he actually studied, cadavers of people that died of various causes like heart disease, liver disease, intestinal disorders, and he studied 117 different autopsies. And he found a 100% correlation between minor curvatures of the vertebra and disease of the organ. So just think about if you had this 100% correlation of a part of the body and you could identify it back to a real cause in the spine, and you could see that some of the studies that there was, arthritis and disc degeneration at the T1 to T3 levels and the people with heart disease, and there was, liver disease at those liver areas in the spine, and it was just so consistent that it was almost unbelievable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like to point out, when they say minor curvature of the spine, that's exactly what we've been talking about. Minor curvature of the spine, or what we use as chiropractors, is subluxation, which is interfering with the body's natural ability to heal itself. So what causes subluxation? I know people are wondering, like, what is it? What are the causes of subluxation? And as chiropractors, we have something called 3T: thoughts, toxin, trauma, which is physical, chemical, and mental stresses.
So it's easy to think about the physical causes.
Right.
You know, when people think of the spine, they always think about the car accident victim. They think about people taking a fall or sports injuries. But, you know, a lot of physical stresses can actually be repetitive postures. So sitting at a desk all day, we know that sitting is actually almost as bad as smoking when people sit too much. So that's a big factor. Birth trauma is probably one of the biggest factors as well.
We're going to talk about that.
We're going to be talking about it in a little bit, but, you know, people can have subluxations from birth. And then you have, of course, chemical stressors. So, you know, whether it's from, you know, illegal or legal drugs that are both toxic to the body, eating too much junk food, alcohol, you know, just the air that we breathe if it's toxic. And of course, there's the concept of mental stress and autosuggestion, which is a big problem for a lot of people too.
Right. And again, we usually go into great detail on that, because again, when you talk about chemical stress, everything that you put in your body is the body's fuel. Okay, so you can't expect your body to have all the energy that it needs to do what it's supposed to do when you put in junk food in the body. And when we talk about mental stress, it's key, because the stress itself is affecting the number one component of the nervous system, which is the brain. So when there's something going on in the brain, that affects the entire body as a whole. So again, those are the main thing that's going on here. And if you're following us online, some of the common cause are the things that we talked about, things that we do on a normal basis. As far as posture is concerned, that's going to put our spine in a twisted and compromised position. So again, let's go back, and this is kind of getting in the controversial subject when we talk about the first subluxation happening during birth. And I had an ad in the paper just recently that I said that I adjusted both of my children at day 1, and I had a lady call me and it's like, oh my God, how would you do that to your kids? I mean, they were born healthy. Why would you do that? And I really got to explain to you, if you understand what, and we're going to put a video on our Facebook page that's going to show you what the kind of trauma that birth is. Nowadays, because of advanced medicine, the mother is taken out of the equation. And unfortunately, because of epidurals and all this stuff, the doctor has to do all the work, and the doctor's is pulling the hand, and it's really traumatic. So again, I didn't adjust my kids for any pain, any symptoms. Actually, they had natural birth, but I understood that when the nervous system is working properly, the body is working properly, and that's the true meaning of health. So by adjusting them, I was removing any possible interference to allow the body to heal itself and to allow them to have a better chance at life as they begin with their nervous system formation.
Yeah, there's German researchers, and we'll show you that slide in a little bit. There it is. A German medical researcher found that the upper neck damage with the nerve system is present in as many as 80% of babies checked shortly after birth.
That's amazing, yeah.
Now, if we think about it, you know, your baby is not going to complain about a pain in their neck. It's not going to complain about a pain in their back. But when we take a look at just the sheer rates of babies that are having problems with things like colic, babies suffering with ear infections, and all these other problems of childhood, and these are some of the biggest reasons that people bring babies to us to check them, is because subluxation can be related to these things.
Right. And again, babies, it's really, they're not going to tell you these things, but again, having their nervous system functioning properly is key. And we both see a lot of children in our office, and they respond so well, because by removing the interference, the body's able to heal so quickly that it's, I mean, I can't tell anybody what to do, but for me and my family, I make sure that my kids are subluxation free, because that's really how they grow into be healthy individuals. So again, all this talk, how do we correct a subluxation? What do we do?
So basically, from a traditional chiropractic perspective, it's to assess the 24 movable vertebrae of the spine, and it's to provide a force into the spine called an adjustment to put that said vertebra back into place. So the definition of an adjustment, we go back to different things, is to balance, and it's a precise force in a specific direction to remove a subluxation and restore the proper nerve supply to the body. And you know, when we identify where subluxation is, then we understand that by removing the subluxation, we're actually doing things like restoring proper blood supply to that spinal area and the spinal cord. We're also taking stress off the ligaments, muscles, discs, and the nerves, and we're also providing better biomechanical stability to the entire spinal structure.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that the adjustment itself don't heal. It simply remove the interference in your body, so to allow innate to do what it was supposed to do, which is self-regulate and self-heal. So the adjustment, again, it's not anything that's gonna, you get adjustment and you feel great. Yeah, you feel great, but what it's doing is after the adjustment, when the brain and the body is able to heal itself. Now, again, both of us, we do something very specific in our office called NUCCA. NUCCA stands for National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association, and the NUCCA procedure, just like you see on here, when we talk about interference and subluxation throughout the spine, that's putting pressure on this particular nerve that goes to parts of your body. And we made the analogy earlier as far as the fuse box. Imagine if all your lights kept going off and you kept changing them, you kept going off and you kept changing them. At some point, you got to realize that there's a short in the main fuse box, okay? So NUCCA goes straight to the fuse box, which is the brainstem. The C1 vertebra, which is the atlas, again, Greek mythology, atlas holds your world. The atlas is literally holding your world. It's a 12-ounce bone that's holding a 10 to 12-pound head. So when that atlas is out of position, it's literally creating a subluxation, a misalignment, and interference between the brain and the rest of the body right at the brain stem level. So that's what NUCCA does, and it's a specific and gentle adjustment, taking pressure off the brain stem to allow the body to literally heal itself over time.
And this isn't something that we just willy-nilly will just look at your neck and just start putting a force in there just because. We actually have to detect that misalignment. So one of the things that we have to do as NUCCA doctors is we use tools to actually measure if there's interference in the nervous system. So if you can see on the screen, we use something called a surface EMG to measure how the nerves are firing into your muscles of your spine and seeing if there's any symmetry in that area. What we also do is we take very precise thermal scans to measure if there's any heat abnormalities going up and down your spine as well. And of course, we have to measure how the atlas is shifted out of place, because the atlas is the one area of the spine that is most sensitive to misalignment. And it's also the one area where if we fix that, we could actually have a profound impact on the spine as a whole. So instead of going through and checking all 24 segments and trying to figure out, all right, which one is going to have the biggest impact, we're going to look at one area, measure the full impact on the entire spine from that one area, so that if someone comes in with multiple problems like back pain and sciatic and all these other things, instead of messing around with all these different places and not knowing what the outcome is going to be, once we correct the atlas, we're able to physically see that the hips come back in place, the shoulders come back into place, and of course their resulting secondary conditions also start to get better from that.
As you can see from the picture itself, when the atlas, and that hole that you see here, that's the tiny hole where the brain actually becomes the spinal cord and all communication from top to bottom takes place. So when the atlas is in perfect position, you can see on the picture there that the spine is actually in perfect position. On the other picture, what you can see, when the atlas is misaligned, it creates a domino effect that misaligns the entire spine. So unlike traditional chiropractors, we don't go pop everything back into place. What we're simply doing is realign that atlas to allow the entire body to heal itself. And just like Dr. Chung says, one of the things that we do immediately after or before we do anything is really to see how that misalignment takes place. So we take some very precise x-rays, and that measurement tells us exactly what's going on. We come up with a formula to gently bring that C1 vertebra back into position, allowing the body to actually heal itself over time.
And of course, this is probably our most important tool, because we are measuring things down to fractions of a degree here. So we're moving things, less than a half a millimeter. But that half of a millimeter can have such profound impacts on the entire body because we're dealing with the brain stem. So a way I like to compare it to is like, it's if you had a lock where you need 3 numbers to unlock that lock. And we designed a specific code to remove that lock, so we call it a formula, because there's literally almost 10,000 different combinations of how your head can tilt in relation to how the atlas can twist out of place. Our job is to take all those 10,000 combinations and figure out which one is going to be the one to unlock your spine and allow that nervous system to work properly again.
And one of the tools that we use, if you look at the picture, is what we call a neurological short leg. So when you come in the office, the way we're going to be able to tell whether you need the correction or not, because unlike traditional chiropractors, we don't adjust every time. We only adjust when the body needs it and it's necessary. So one of the tools that we use is when you come in, if we check your legs and your legs are unbalanced, and it's called neurological short leg because it's a direct relation with the atlas being out of alignment. When the atlas is out of alignment, your head tilts to one side, your shoulder goes up and down on one side, and your hip goes up and down because of all the muscle spasm and tightness going on in the paraspinal muscles, and that creates a short leg. So when you come in, we check your legs. If your legs are short, then you need a correction. As we adjust and your body starts holding the correction, then your legs are balanced and there's no adjustment that day. So everything that we do in the office, there are ways to determine what's going on and be able to quantify what we're doing and see how your body's responding to the adjustment.
And the other main difference that people need to understand is with the NUCA technique, you know, it fulfills chiropractic's promise of restoring the normal balance of the spine and having normal nerve supply, but it's also a technique where it's very gentle, there's no forceful manipulation, and it's a very light, almost like a tapping force onto your neck. A lot of people will more so complain that, you know, the adjustment didn't do anything when they first get it, then they are afraid of getting hurt. But even though they don't feel anything during the adjustment, as they start to get up and their body starts to rebalance and those nerves start to wake up again, they just notice all these really profound changes happening in their body very quickly.
Yeah, and again, just like you and I, a lot of the patients that we see in the office is like, well, doc, my pain isn't my back, my pain is in my knee, or it's like, what is that little tiny thing going to do way up here when my problem is down here? And if you look at the next slide, and a lot of you are familiar with this guy, Christopher Reeve, Superman. Now, when he had his accident, he ended up being in a wheelchair. What was wrong with his legs? Because there was nothing wrong with his legs. He didn't break his legs. Why is he in a wheelchair? Why isn't he not walking? What was wrong with his lungs? Because he's in a breathing apparatus. What was wrong with his with the digestion and everything like that? And there was nothing wrong with him. The only thing that he did when he fell off the horse, he went head first and fractured the back of that C1 vertebra. That was it. But yet, because of that, the importance of that vertebra, signal was blocked from the brainstem and nothing below that worked. So a lot of time when we see patients in the office, you may have a tiny misalignment that's creating sciatica or pain down your low back, which is you don't have a fracture, so you're not in a wheelchair, but that little tiny vertebra can cause back pain, difficulty breathing, asthma, allergies, digestion. It literally is the key that unlocks everything in your body. So that's why we are able to adjust it and be confident to tell you that your body is going to start healing itself, because this is the key to the entire thing.
So let's just compare and contrast, different healthcare approaches. So when someone comes in with a sickness or illness, then what our first line of approach is to drug it. Right. And if that doesn't work, then we can make it numb. We can make you not even feel it. There's even procedures to kill nerves off now to make sure that you don't feel it anymore. Or we could chemically relax it. Everyone's heard of the muscle relaxers. Or we could do something like we could artificially lower it, like your blood pressure. And if all those things fail, then eventually we have to say, let's just cut the darn thing out.
Yeah, exactly. You were born with extra parts, so let's just get rid of them. You don't need your gallbladder. Let's just get rid of stuff. And that's the current motto here. But if you look on the screen, and I'll read this to you, this is the motto, and this is where we at. If you go to a nursing home these days, let's say the person's taking the red pill for the illness, and then you take the blue pill for the side effect of the red, and then the green for the side effect of the blue, and so on and so forth. These people have a cocktail of medication where they literally have no idea what was their first symptoms. As you listen to us, when you get a chance, go to YouTube and check out Chantix, which is a medication that was done to help you stop smoking. And it's crazy. There's 2 minutes worth of side effects that can happen. There's no such thing as side effects, people. That's just something that the pharmaceutical company came. There's either a cause and effect. There's no side effect. You may get the desired effect or you may get the non-desired effect, but that's the effect of it all.
So when we're talking about how to change the paradigm of healthcare, we have to look at things not from a treatment perspective, but from changing your lifestyle. So talk about what goes into a healthy lifestyle. For us, exercise is such an important part of my overall life. I'm exercising 4 or 5 times per week because I want to move better. We also talk about, putting proper fuel in your body, because the food in your eat literally become your body in a matter of time. That's the purpose of food, is not only to give you energy, but it's to give you the building blocks for your cells. And of course, you have to make sure that your nervous system is working all the time, because if you have the right exercise and the right movement, and you have the right building materials, but the control system that's supposed to work with those building materials isn't working, then you're doing those things for naught.
All right. And now, I mean, we've given you guys a lot of information here. And I know you guys are, it's kind of eye-opening, and some of the things you might have heard of, and some of the things you may not have heard of. One of my favorite quotes is, those who have the privilege of knowledge have the responsibility of action. So it's one thing to listen to us and like, oh yeah, I have this, oh yeah, I have that, oh yeah, this may help me, but it's another thing to take action. The difference between the people that are successful and that are not is the people that are successful, they take in the information and do something about it. So again, we've given you all the information that you need, so there's no need to sit there and suffer and think that, oh, it's gonna go on its own. Take action. Have your nervous system evaluated. A lot of time people go in for, let me check my heart, let me check this, let me check that, but the nervous system controls everything. We are giving the opportunity right now to do something about it and take action. And again, both in my office and Dr. Chung's office, if you call today, and we'll do it over the next couple days, and you want to come in and get the full evaluation, we will give you a $100 gift card to go towards that. And that's our way of thanking you for sitting down and listening to us here. But again, take action. And again, if you look at our mission is to change the healthcare of the world one family at a time. It starts with you. A joke I usually say in my office is, if there's somebody that you don't like, don't tell them about this. But for your family, for your friends, for your kids, for your loved ones, absolutely have their nervous system checked, because that's what controls everything. And tiny interference may not cause problem today, but sitting there for long enough, a long time, then that's when you get the big disease symptoms and cancer and all that stuff. So have your nervous system today and take action and take our offer today.
Yeah, and one of my favorite quotes is actually by a chiropractor. He's actually known as the developer of chiropractic. His name is Dr. B.J. Palmer. And it's a quote that a lot of people resonate with, is, we never know how far-reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
That's powerful.
And the key to that is that there are people in your lives that, may need help more than you think you need help. And a big part of why our office is filled is because of referrals, is because they see the impact that one tiny little bone at the top of the neck can cause for the entire body, and how the entire body breaks down, how it infects not only that person's life, but the life of every single person that interacts with them. So we've all been around those sick people. When someone has fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue, it's not just that person that's affected, it's everyone that they interact with that's affected. So by taking that step and getting that person to get their nervous system checked out, and possibly providing a solution to get this person's life back, you're maybe not only changing that person's life, but you're changing the life of their family too.
Yeah, and hopefully by us doing this show, we are impacting your lives in a positive way. And the only thing that we ask is that you spread the word, because again, just like the quote says, you never know. Sometimes you see somebody down the street, just a smile and a hug and a hello can make a tremendous difference in their life. So again, we are doing our part. We are sharing the word. We again, take action. Go visit our website, healyourselfradio.com. All our information's on there, and definitely take advantage of the offer. It's a $100 gift card, no questions asked, but that will allow you to finally get your nervous system evaluated, because your nervous system is the most important system in the body, and if it's not working properly, it's going to cause every single organ, blood vessels, organs, and glands not to work properly. So take advantage of the offer and get your nervous system evaluated.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to say goodbye for Dr. Greg Jean-Pierre here. Just remind you, check out healyourselfradio.com, see where our office is at, schedule a consultation if you want to get a consult with one of us, and most importantly, spread the word to others. And if you missed parts of the show and you want to make sure you get the whole thing, check that website, tune into it, and we'll have the entire presentation on there as well. So this is Dr. Jonathan Chung with Dr. Gregory Jean-Pierre and Heal Yourself Radio. We'll catch you next week.
And LeBron, we're looking forward to a great season with you next year.
Join Dr. Jonathan Chung and Dr. Greg Jean-Pierre each week on the Heal Yourself radio show every Thursday at 5 p.m. Listen each week as they interview leading health experts to provide you with comprehensive and natural solutions to make your body work at its best and solve chronic health problems. Right here on 1470 AM, the Health and Wealth Network.